This podcast is hosted by licensed therapists, but it is not a substitute for therapy. The content is for informational and educational purposes only and does not constitute professional advice or a therapeutic relationship. If you are in need of mental health support, we encourage you to consult a licensed mental health provider in your area. I'm Dr. Marissa Eusebio.
I'm Dr. Anna Barus.
We are licensed psychologists and we're moms, but we are not your mother's therapist.
Not your mother's therapist.
Welcome to Not Your Mother's Therapist.
We're back.
Yes, we are.
Mm-hmm.
Well, now that we are a couple episodes in and things have been recorded and edited, how do you feel going back and listening to us and watching ourselves?
Okay, so it's very nerve-wracking, like, to hear it back and hear myself, like, stutter over words. Like, I think in the first episode, I said, like, I think instead of saying, like, breadwinner, I said, like, bread maker.
No, 100%. And in the moment, I was like, she just said bread maker.
Oh!
And I actually went back and forth. I was like, do I tease her for that? Do I tease her for being a bread maker? I didn't, but...
I didn't even realize. There was at least, like, 5 times where I said something dumb, like, here listening back to it. Which I guess that's what you were trying to save yourself from by not listening to them.
Yes, because I was so anxious. Initially pressed play, and I think I got like 5 seconds in, and I heard my voice, and I was like, no, I can't do this. I can't do this. And then I just wholly avoided it.
Yeah.
It made me think about how when we were in grad school training, and we had to like audio and sometimes video record our therapy sessions and then watch it back with our supervisors, and how like painstakingly anxiety provoking that was. I just had like a flashback to all those moments, and I was like, no.
Yeah.
I don't want to do this.
It's kind of like that. I'm not judging myself as much. I think because in this space, there's no right way to do this. Whereas in therapy, I felt like, oh, I should have done this. I should have said that. Like, there's this like right. I had this like mentality of like the right way for me to be, and I felt like I was always missing it.
But I feel like there's gonna be somebody out there that's listening to this. It's like, no, there's a right way. You should have done that.
Yeah. Wrong. That's just gonna be the comment.
The next comment we're gonna get on one of our social media things is gonna be like, you're wrong.
Yeah.
This is all wrong.
Especially for this episode.
Yes.
Probably.
Especially for this episode, which I'm very excited about.
I'm very excited about. You know what's funny is I told my partner, Jacob, I told him like, hey, we're doing an episode on dads. Like, I mean, you happen to be one. What do you think that we should talk about in this episode? And he's just like, well, I don't know. What's there to say about dads? And I'm like, what?
I know. Michael
that's
actually
like
had
the most dad thing to say.
Which is essentially the same reaction that Michael had, my husband. He basically was like, oh, what are you guys going to talk about?
That is fascinating. It's like they just like erasing their entire existence.
I know.
It's like almost like a minimization. It's like if I went up to Beyonce and I was like, oh my God, Beyonce, tell me about your music and like how you go through that. And she's like, well, what's there to say about my music? It's like, what?
I love the Beyonce reference. That actually makes me so happy. But you're right. That would be insane. She would never say that because there's so much to talk about. There's
so much to say. And like dad stuff, matters. And I don't know. It's so fascinating that they would both have that same reaction. And probably maybe even dads that are listening to this episode are probably thinking the same thing. Like, what are they going to say?
Yeah.
What is there to say? Yeah. I don't know why we feel like there's so much to say.
I feel very strongly about this topic.
Yeah. Why don't we start off with, I think the part that is making us nervous about talking about this topic, and then why we feel so strongly about this. So you had an interesting experience one time in a group therapy that we do, which is the ROSE group, which is it's an acronym it's a group to prevent postpartum depression in women. It uses key elements from like interpersonal therapy and kind of condenses them down. Interpersonal therapy is kind of like the gold standard for postpartum depression treatment. And so that is kind of condenses it down to 4 sessions to prevent postpartum depression. And so you had an interesting group therapy session one time. What was your experience there?
Yeah. So I was in group. Me and I was working with an intern at the time, and he and I were facilitating the group. And we got to the section that was talking about postpartum blues, postpartum depression, like what are the differences, and kind of providing some education. And I just kind of made a general comment about how dads also experience postpartum depression, and that when their spouse, the female, is experiencing postpartum depression, it actually increases their risk by like 50%.
Right.
And I was just like, yeah, it's wild, like that this also happens and we don't talk about it. And the immediate reaction in the room was annoyance, like
Yeah.
irritation, and just like, ugh, are you serious? Like one of the participants actually said, she was like, can't us women have anything to ourselves? Like, do
Yeah.
the men also have to take postpartum depression? And I was so taken aback. I was not expecting that reaction whatsoever. And same for the intern that was in the room as well. And he had an interesting experience because he was a male, obviously not pregnant, in the room. And he was like, wow, I didn't expect them to have such a negative reaction.
Yeah.
And he and I talked about it afterwards. And he and I were both kind of like, well, maybe this was just like a one-off. Like they feel very strongly about this. But
when you told me about it, I thought, oh, well, it's just a weird session.
Yeah. We just so happened to have a couple people in the group that felt very strongly in the opposite direction than what we did. And I really didn't think much of it.
Right. Yeah. Which is interesting because I think we thought that was a one-off thing. But then recently I saw a post. I don't know if you know. Let me actually tell you her name so I don't mess it up here. Her name is Reshma Saujani, and she's like the CEO or founder of Moms First USA and the founder of Girls Who Code. And she posted something about talking about how men's mental health is not separate from women's mental health, right? How it's all related. We can't ignore that, you know? And I was reading it. It was a pretty long post, and I was reading it. I was like, this is great. Like, oh my gosh, I agree with all of this. This is right in line with all the stuff that you and I have been saying for like a long time now. And then I go to the comments and I'm like, oh my gosh. And I sent it to you because I was like, whoa, a lot of women were pissed. And this is shocking to me. So they're saying things like, if they have enough energy to, be part of the patriarchy and put women down and stuff like that, then they have enough energy to fix their own mental health problems. And I'm like, okay, wow. And like, it'd be one thing if I'm talking about like the top, like the top 10% are like doing that. Everyone else is pretty in favor of men's mental health. No, Marissa. Most of the comments were women basically talking down on men's mental health and basically kind of having this approach of like, they should figure it out. Like, that's not our problem. I'm not going to this isn't some I heard the word internalized misogyny in there. Like, what is this internalized misogyny that we should be responsible for men's mental health? So that got me thinking a lot about why are we just now learning that women are actually not super pro like dad's mental health or like men's mental health? And so I was trying to reflect on that because it's starting to feel like maybe we're the minority on this kind of support, I think.
Yeah.
And so I think it's important to start off this episode with saying that we have some bias. You and I have some bias on why we're pro dad's mental health. The first thing, probably the most important factor here is that we are both boy moms.
We both have two boys.
We both have two boys who will maybe one day, if they want to, they'll be dads. And they'll be men in society. So men's mental health is very much tied to my own happiness in a lot of ways. It's not something that I have the luxury of ignoring or saying, no, you got to figure it out. Because you guys are part of the patriarchy and you started the patriarchy. I can't look at my 2.5-year-old and be like, sorry, son, you're part of the patriarchy, so you got to figure yourself out. I just don't have that luxury.
Yeah. And I feel in general very strongly about it's not even really being protective of my kids. It's more so like my kids, I never want them to have to figure something out on their own like
Yeah.
this, right? I'm not talking about like
Right.
the small things. I want them to gain independence and all that kind of stuff, but they always will know that their mom is their biggest cheerleader. And when in whatever moments they need me, I am
Yeah.
100% there and I'm showing up for my kids.
Yeah.
And so I can't just sit on the sidelines and be like, oh, wow, this is an issue that's going to affect both my boys. Sucks for you guys. Like,
Right.
absolutely not. I can't do that.
Yeah.
No, I could do that. I will not do that.
Right.
So for me, it's both of us. I think it's so much bigger than men's mental health because we're thinking about raising the next generation.
Mm-hmm.
And I know that I want a better world.
Yeah.
And so if I want a better world for my kids, that starts by pouring into them, but then also pouring into their dad, my
Right.
husband, because he is who they also look up to for an example.
Right.
And so this is just, it's wildly
Right.
important to
No,
me.
yeah. And their understanding of what fatherhood is going to look like is going to be a lot from Michael, basically. You know,
Yeah.
if he enjoyed it,
Mhm.
they'll remember that and be like, my dad loved being a dad.
Yep.
If he didn't enjoy it, they'll remember that and be like, I'm going to take a little longer to have my own kids because I remember how much my dad struggled with that.
Mhm.
So, and I think that's another part too, is our partners. Like
Yeah.
we have very involved partners. I mean, we've talked about this idea before that like these are our partners are not their dads.
Right.
And they're not their dad's dads.
Mhm.
This is a very separate generation. They're a much more involved generation. They're doing a lot more. They're carrying like close to 50% of the load these days.
Mhm.
So, and for that reason, my partner's enjoyment of fatherhood is very much tied to going back to that idea of like being more family centered.
Mhm.
It's very much tied to the happiness of our family.
Mhm.
And so I can't say like, well, I got to figure out my own mom stuff, right? Because you and I think about mom's issues a lot. We work with a lot of moms. I can't just say like, well, I already have enough of a burden to think about here. I can't think about yours too.
Mhm.
I can't afford to say that because this is our family. It's not his issue. It's our issue,
Mhm.
basically.
It is. And I had a very powerful moment when I was pregnant with my second son, where I was thinking about how me as a woman, like I've gotten a lot of messages from society about how to be a mom
Hmm.
and support that I have and resources that I have. And then I've also just been very fortunate that I have two kick-ass parents. Like I
Yeah.
have an awesome dad. I have an amazing mom who have just been so supportive and so loving my whole life.
Hmm.
And it made me think about how I learned how to be a parent from both of them.
Yeah.
And then that made me think about
Also,
my
I'm thinking about how
husband.
our listeners are like, fuck
I
you.
know,
Can't
I know, I
believe you
know,
have. Don't
I
worry,
know.
guys. I'm here to balance it out for everybody. Oh, plenty
You're
of
gonna offer
story.
that tidbit, that
Yeah,
balance. You're gonna even us
yeah.
out a little bit because and good because I will brag about my parents and my siblings, like my whole immediate family. My greatest privilege in life
Yeah.
will forever be my greatest
I know.
privilege in life. Like my siblings are people that I want to be around. Like I want, as an adult,
That's
I want to be
wild.
friends
No,
with
I'm
them.
just kidding. I love my sister, actually.
And but I've got 3 siblings. Like you'd
Yeah.
think out of all that, one
Right.
of them would be like, meh.
Yeah.
No, they're all
Who's the
great
runt in the
people.
litter?
There is none. They're all, maybe it's me. Maybe I'm the runt of the litter and they're listening to this like, oh.
Gosh.
But no, I have amazing parents, an amazing family, and grew up in just a pretty awesome culture. And I'm very, very grateful for that. And because of that, there is so much that I want to replicate
Yeah.
in my role now as a mom.
Mm,
And things that I want to take from both of my parents and how I raise my children.
yeah.
And then it made me think about my husband, right? It made me think about Michael and how he never had that in terms of his father,
Yeah.
his dad. He never had someone to look at and be like, oh, this is how I want to parent.
Mm-hmm.
In fact, actually quite the opposite. He was like, this is how I do not want to be a parent. And it made me think about how he had such a bigger hill to climb than I did when it comes to like, how do I navigate parenting? What do I want to take with me from my parents?
Right.
For him, from his dad, it's nothing. There's nothing that he wants to take from his relationship with his dad.
Yeah.
And there's also a lot of pain that has come with that
Mm-hmm.
because he and I have had conversations about how he is so involved with our kids and so crucial in their lives. And he came to me one day and was like, man, him being a dad has made him lose respect for his dad
Yeah.
because he was like, how could my dad have just not been there
Yeah.
for his kids, for all of his kids? And I think it's made him very, very sad. But then I
Right.
look at him as a parent and I'm like, yeah, but you're still such a kick-ass parent. Like, look at all that you are doing
Yeah.
despite not having that example to look up to.
Right.
And it made me both very sad and also feel very inspired by him
Mm.
because that's a lot of shit that you have to go through to then
Yeah.
show up for your kids in the way that Michael does.
Yeah. Gosh, I feel his pain. It's almost like when you have a parent that's like trying but is severely fucking up the whole time, that's almost easier
Mm.
to forgive than just an absent parent, like
Mhm.
someone that just like wasn't there, didn't care, didn't bother to think about you.
Mhm.
That's way worse,
Yeah.
way harder. Um, and I think an important other reason here too why we should say that we're a little bit biased is because we're both daddy's girls.
Oh yeah.
We both have very like our dads were very, very important figures in our lives.
Mhm.
It basically taught me a lot about what it means to be a dad, and I think because of my dad's presence in my life, I realized that Jacob's presence and his experience of being a father is incredibly important for our kids. I
Mhm.
have this very real understanding that like I cannot replace the experience that he's going to have with our kids.
Mm.
I fully appreciate how his experience with them is very different from mine, and their memories with him are going to be very different from mine.
Mhm.
And I don't get in the way of it. Like I'm very
Yeah.
much like I want you guys to have this like father experience because to some degree my mom didn't get in the way of my experience with my dad. I had a lot of
Yeah.
alone time with my dad when it was just me and him, and those are like some of my most favorite memories of all time. It's just spending time alone with my dad.
Mhm.
So I appreciate very, very much dads
Yeah. I do too.
and masculine energy just in
Mhm.
general.
Yeah.
Yeah, always. And I think that's one of the reasons why I joined the military and all that stuff. I just love being around masculine energy.
Mhm.
That like that care that like the whole like, well, what's there to talk about that? It's like that vibe of just
Mhm.
like, oh, what's there to care about anything? I love that so much. I don't. Oh, it's so great. It's so refreshing after
Mhm.
spending a lot of time with like in a women's clinic and stuff like that. Jacob
Mhm.
is just always, I'll be like at the store and be like, what candle do you want? And he's like, whatever candle. I love it. I love it. I just love the carefreeness. So I want to kind of like say a little bit about why people should care about this,
Mhm.
like from a research point of view, right?
Yeah.
Because we're saying you should care about this, but let's back it up with some research. So here's some research from Rutgers that basically says that children exposed to paternal depression at kindergarten entry are likelier to have behavioral problems and poor social skills by age 9,
Mhm.
which I did not know about.
Mhm.
Another study published in the JAMA Pediatrics found that paternal depression, anxiety, and stress in the perinatal period are linked with poor emotional, cognitive, and language development in children.
Wow.
Yeah. And then in terms of what we do every day,
Mhm.
so in a survey of 1,600 American fathers, 59% of dads said that they do more childcare than they receive credit for.
Mm.
Ooh. 45% feel judged when they talk about their own mental health.
Wow.
I wonder why. 75% said that they want more support. Wow, that's a huge number,
That's a lot.
75%. But only 27% say friends or family check in on them.
Yeah.
And about 4 to 5% of new fathers report suicidal thoughts in early parenthood. And along with that, suicide remains the leading cause of death for men under 50.
Wow.
So there's some studies back here, to kind of back up why we should really care. And on that note about like, friends and family checking in on them and people just generally checking in on dads, I do feel like you and I have experienced that to some degree
Mhm.
with, I mean, this is probably a whole episode that we'll do later on, but I had a whole NICU experience with my first baby, which is a whole story in itself, so I won't get into it. But, after the NICU, both Jacob and I were struggling. I
Mhm.
mean, we were struggling. Like, we legitimately went through an experience where we thought we would lose our child, kind of thing. And so, and I remember, we still had our pediatrician follow-ups and things like that. And they would always give me the Edinburgh postnatal depression scale, and I would fill it out. And I remember at one point it was high. So the pediatrician pulled me aside and she was like, wait a second. Um, but she never checked in with Jacob.
Mhm.
And I think what bothered me the most about that is that I saw Jacob in the NICU.
Mhm.
There wasn't anything I experienced that he didn't,
Right.
with a few exceptions. Like, I had to breastfeed, which was a full-time job, and
Yeah.
had all these other things. But for the most part, he was there every day doing all the stuff with me. We're both there. We're both waiting in the surgery room, waiting for our son to get out. All this stuff, like, we're hand in hand in this whole experience. And so I couldn't put two and two together about why it is that they're testing me, but not him.
Mhm.
And I think maybe it's like antiquated. I don't know what's going on, because I think it's kind of like this idea of not checking in with fathers is based on previous generations who
Right.
maybe weren't that involved in childcare, right? But this person was here with me the whole time,
Mhm.
changing more diapers than I was, for
Mhm.
sure. Um, and so, yeah, I think we're really, really lacking in that department. And I think we've seen it firsthand
Mhm.
with our partners.
Mhm. Yeah, we absolutely have. I mean, I even think about like being in labor, right? And how, I mean, obviously how strenuous that is, right? How long you're in labor. And I think back and I'm like, man, I could have not done that without
Yeah.
Michael being there.
Yeah.
Like he was my rock throughout labor.
Hmm.
And like, yes, he's obviously not experiencing what I'm going through because I'm going through the physical nature of all of it. But there were just small things like his comfort, his just like presence there was so grounding. And it made me think back to like previous generations where men were not even in the labor and
Yeah.
delivery room, which is crazy to me. Like
Hmm.
me, if I was had strangers around me during all of that, like absolutely not. I don't know you people. I do not feel safe with you people.
Hmm.
Sure, you're doctors and nurses, but like I do not feel like comforted by you all.
Right.
I even remember when I was in labor with my first son, I had said like, oh, I want music, like I want distraction, and I love listening to music. And I told him, I was like, can you put on, he has like a playlist, just like it's called Easy Like Sunday Morning. And it's
Hmm.
just like very nice, like kind of
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
mellow playlist. And he was like, absolutely, I can pull that up. But he was like, I actually already have queued your Hawaiian music playlist. And he was
Oh,
like,
how
I will play
cute.
whichever one you want. But he was like, I feel like you might want the Hawaiian music one more. Like he was like, that is very grounding for you and very
Yeah.
comforting for you. And I was like, why didn't I think of that? I was like,
Yeah.
100%. So we
Oh,
were
he's so
actually,
sweet.
he was so sweet. And he was like, so we like Hawaiian music was played while my son was being
Yeah.
born. And I think back and I'm like, oh, I wouldn't have thought of that in the moment. But it was just a small,
Hmm.
small thing that I won't forget because of how much comfort it gave me.
Yeah.
And I also think back to that experience and how much the doctors ignored him while I was in
Yeah.
labor. Like when they were asking us about decisions for our baby and different medical interventions, do you want to do this? Do you want to do that? And the decisions are also overwhelming. And not once did the OBGYN look at my husband.
Mm.
She did not look at him at all. She was
Yeah.
only looking at me. And I wanted to be like, girlfriend, I am not the only person making the decision.
Yeah.
Like my husband, especially because I'm the one that's in labor, he's always going to defer to me, like what I want to do, right? Because the medical interventions that they're talking about are not just for the baby, they're also for
Right.
me, right? There's no way to separate those
Yeah.
things. But he is my sounding board. He is the one that I'm talking these things through with. Like, do I want this medication? Do I not? Okay, we're going to do the epidural. And what about this? And what about that? He is helping guide me through this, even though
Yeah.
at the end of the day, I'm still the one making the final decision.
Yeah.
I'm like, but all of you people are ignoring him. That's so rude.
Yeah.
It was kind of mind blowing to me.
Oh my gosh. No, I can't imagine. Um, I thought it might be helpful for us to share a little bit about why we feel like fatherhood is so important.
Hmm.
Um, by like using some examples from our own experience, like with
Yeah.
our dads. Um, so do you want to go first? You want me to
Sure.
go
Yeah,
for
I
it.
can go first. I mean, like you said, we're both very much daddy's girl. And to this day, I am still very much a daddy's girl. My dad has consistently and will always be such an important figure in my life. And one of the memories that has always stayed with me is a core memory, as silly as this is going to sound, is going to the recycling center with my dad.
Oh
And I think I've
yeah.
told you about this
Mm-hmm.
before, but we used to like pack up different recycling things and then we would go to the recycling center and
Mm-hmm.
he would rotate like which of me and my siblings got to go with him that day. And my other siblings were all kind of like, why are we doing this? I don't want to do this. And I was always the one to volunteer.
Yeah.
I was like, I'll go. I'll go
Yeah.
with him because that was a moment that was alone time that I had with my dad. And we would go in his like blue pickup truck and we would play Hawaiian music. And we would just
Yeah.
blast Hawaiian music, singing along, having the greatest time of our lives. And I remember very distinctively being at the recycling center, feeling very proud to be his daughter. Like,
Oh my
that's right, that's my dad. We're just
gosh.
here chilling at the recycling center. And I remember just being like beaming with pride that like this was
Wow.
my dad.
Yeah.
And that has never left.
Why?
Why?
Why were you so proud to be like his daughter in that moment?
Because he was so cool. I'm like, yeah, and like nobody else is pulling up here with their daughter and
Yeah.
like blasting Hawaiian music. And because my dad is just such a joy to be around. He's such
Oh,
a happy and strong presence
yeah.
always.
Mm.
And I just loved getting to be in the world with him.
Wow.
And like I said, that has never changed.
Yeah.
And to this day, my dad is someone that I know that I can consistently rely on.
Yeah.
Like if I were to call him right now and say, I need you, right? He
Yeah.
lives up in the Bay Area. So he lives quite a ways away, like a 6-7 hour drive or, you know, an hour and a half plane ride. And if I called him right now and said, I need you,
Yeah.
he would say, do you need me to get in the car right now? Or do you need me to get on a plane? Like how quickly does this
Yeah.
need to happen, right? Can I get on a plane tomorrow or get in the car right now? Which one do you need? And there would be no
Gosh.
questions asked if he would
Yeah.
be here. And I can say that with 100% confidence.
Yeah. Man, there's something really, really important about the safety that dads provide.
Yeah.
And I'm not gonna look into like research. I don't know what the research and all is on this. But I can tell you from personal experience, I remember going to sleep when I was little, like 5 or 6, and sometimes being scared. Maybe I'd watched a scary movie or Goosebumps was really popular around that time. And I just remember going to sleep sometimes and thinking like, well, but my dad is here
Mm-hmm.
in the next room. And my gosh, like I genuinely do not think I have replaced that feeling of like being a little girl and knowing that your dad
Mm-hmm.
will move like earth and mountain to like do anything for you and like protect you. Like the safety with that is so incredibly powerful. And I didn't feel that with my mom. I don't think. I didn't think like, and I know my mom would like kill anybody for me, right?
Mm-hmm.
But it wasn't the same feeling because my dad was like just like huge, you know,
Mhm.
strong. Like I felt like he could definitely take somebody down. Like, so there's something really, really important about that. And I just think about like how safety and security is like the biggest thing to raise like healthy children,
Mhm.
and how he was able to provide that in a lot of ways and just make us feel safe, like
Mhm.
kind of going to sleep. But I will say my dad was not without his flaws.
Mhm.
He had a lot of flaws. He was not perfect by any means. I think like a lot of, and I want to use this example because I think it highlights something really important for me too. I mean, I think to a lot of people, he might have even been seen as like a jerk for some of the stuff that he did. He was not always a great person.
Mhm.
But what's funny is that taught me a lot.
Mm.
Me and my sister, especially me in high school, I was very, very bad. I was bad. Like anything that you didn't want your teenage girl to be doing in high school, I was probably doing that. They still don't know to this day half the stuff that I did. By the hair on my chinny chin chin, did I make it out of my teenage years?
I wish I knew you back then.
Oh my
I want to see
gosh.
young Anna just
Yeah.
wilding out.
Yeah, only like literally only my friends that are listening to this from Florida probably like, you know, like we know at least how bad it got, but like we were bad. And like there was one point where I dragged my sister into it. My sister was Miss Straight A. She had a little scholarship for college. Like, she was just a super square and like boring. And like, so I dragged her into some of the bad stuff I was doing. And mind you, I'm the younger sister. So I dragged her into some of the bad stuff I was doing at the time. And we got in trouble. We got in some serious, serious trouble one night. Some serious trouble. Like, we gotta call mom and dad kind of trouble. This wasn't like, how do we get ourselves out of here and not tell mom and dad? No, it was like, we got to call mom and dad. And I remember we called our dad. Sure enough, he was like, I'm on my way. And he came and he picked us up. And I will say, like, the biggest, like, the thing that I remember the most is that I thought he was going to get there and just rip us a new one, right? I thought he was just like going to be livid. And my dad was a scary person when he was angry. So we were scared. At that point, we were more scared of my dad than we were of, like, whatever we had done. And, but he came and he was like, are you guys okay? Are you good? Are you, whatever? And we're like, yeah. And he was like, all right, let's go. And with like that level of calmness. And I think about that moment a lot because I don't know what compelled him to be like, I think what they need right now is calmness from me and like a sense of like strength, right? Because he was livid. Yeah. He was livid. But like he was thinking less about his emotional reaction to what was happening and more about what do they need. Even though we were dumbasses and we're the ones that got ourselves in trouble, there was no one else to blame. It was purely us. And like, but he just like completely just took care of us in that moment. And I always want, because I would never recommend this to someone, right? Like if I'm trying to give someone advice, like, oh, your kids just got in trouble. Oh, well, if you're angry, you should express that. You should let them know. I don't know that I would ever recommend that somebody just straight up like lock down whatever they're feeling and just focus on their kids. But I will say it had a huge impact on me. And I thought about like, why was he able to do that? And I think it's because he had a bunch of flaws himself. So he knew what it was like to be in a position where you feel shitty about yourself and your decisions. He knew what it felt like to be us in that moment. And that taught me a lot about how to love someone with flaws. That taught me almost like half of what I needed to know about being in a relationship with someone else. Yeah. I don't think that I ever entered a relationship. Some people are like, okay, well, here's the list that when I find a guy, he has to have this and that and this, and here's like my growing list of stuff, and he has to make this income. I really never had that mindset. I was just like, when I get into a relationship, it's going to be with somebody that has a lot of flaws. It doesn't matter who it is, they will have a lot of flaws because they're a human being. And so I think like I always had this mindset of like, I need to be able to be with someone through their flaws or with their flaws kind of a thing. And I learned that from my dad, basically, because he was filled with flaws and me and him still had a great relationship and he accepted mine. And what a powerful thing to experience as a young teenage girl doing dumbass shit and also being like, in the thick of teenage girlhood, self-esteem stuff and all this stuff, to just have a dad to say like, you're okay though. Like, you're still my daughter. Yeah. Gosh.
Yeah, powerful is the word that came to my mind. Also, off air, I want you to tell me what you did. Okay. I'm sitting here like, dang, what'd you do?
Listen, the reason why I won't is because I don't want to air my sister's laundry out there. I'm like, I don't know, she might not want me to say, like, all this stuff. So maybe one day I'll ask her, get her consent first.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, but off air,
okay, I'll tell you.
Wow.
So our call to action. I have a call to action for everybody, which is basically that, like, I kind of feel like today in America, moms are drowning for sure, but dads are drowning too.
Yeah.
And I think instead of being like, well, who's drowning the most or who's wetter or who's whatever, just throw everybody a life jacket.
Yeah.
Let's stop comparing. Let's stop, this or that. Yes, moms do a lot. We sure do. But we're all drowning here.
Yeah.
So let's support each other.
Because our kids are better for it.
Our kids are better for it. Our families are better for it. And so I think the call to action is really to check in with a dad, and it could be maybe your own spouse or someone else, and really ask them like, hey, how is fatherhood going for you?
Mm-hmm.
What do you think about fatherhood? How are you like managing all of this?
Mm-hmm.
Because I'm willing to bet no one has asked them that before.
Right. Yeah, I think you're right.
Mhm.
And I think I'll give a second call to action
Yeah,
because
go
I
for
was
it.
thinking about this as we're recording. Actually, so David, who is I don't actually know what your title is, David, but I don't know, media wizard. I don't if that's not your title,
Media
that's what it
wizard.
should be. That's what I've dubbed you now. But when we were talking about this with David, he had mentioned that there is a Reddit thread called
Oh,
Guy
yeah.
Cry. Guy Cry. Yeah, he's nodding. Okay.
Mm,
So there's a Reddit thread called Guy Cry. And I really wanted to go look, but I felt
yeah.
like an intruder. I'm like, I
Yeah.
don't know. Am I supposed to look at this? I don't know. So, but I think like go look at that. Go read through other experiences that other men are having. Share your own experience on there. I don't know. At least go look at the thread.
Yeah.
It doesn't hurt. It's maybe as a place that you'll get some kind of comfort or shared experience with someone else. So go look at that. I think that's my call to action today.
Yeah. I love it.
Yep.
All right. Where can they find us, Marissa?
All right, so you guys can find us on Instagram and TikTok at Not Your Mother's Therapist Podcast. You can email us at notyourmotherstherapistpodcast@gmail.com. And then, of course, you can find us on all of the podcast streaming apps.
All right. And our next episode is about miscarriage,
Mm.
right? Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
We're going to talk a little bit about miscarriage. We'll come join us. I think we'll give a disclaimer at some point, like, hey, maybe if you want to, skip the next 5 minutes of this episode, if you find this triggering, then we'll let you know ahead of time. But we're going to just talk generally about miscarriage and some cultural things around it and why it's stigmatized and all these different things. And we'll share a personal story as well. Yeah.
We'll catch you next time.
See you next time.
This podcast is hosted by licensed therapists, but it is not a substitute for therapy. The content is for informational and educational purposes only and does not constitute professional advice or a therapeutic relationship. If you are in need of mental health support, we encourage you to consult a licensed mental health provider in your area.